friends, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going through the 5 things that we wish we knew before we bought our first property. And yes, that's right, I did say we, because today we are joined with Ravi from the Ravi Personal Finance YouTube channel. And if you haven't seen his channel already, I highly recommend that you do check it out, because Ravi has some amazing content about personal finance, property investing, and crypto, and pretty much everything that you guys are interested in. So I definitely recommend checking out his YouTube channel. I've learned so many things from Ravi, and I'm sure you guys will get a lot of value from his content as well. So thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Thanks for having me, Queenie. This has been awesome. Like, to actually be able to collaborate in person. It's very rare for us YouTubers to do that, but we're both in Sydney, so this is awesome. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming over and coming to my humble abode. And by the way, before we get into the tips, it is important to mention that Ravi and I are not financial advisors. This video is not financial advice. So it is super important that you do your own research before you invest in anything or make any decisions. So let's just get straight into the tips. What is the first thing that you wish you knew before you bought your first property?
Yeah, so this is weird talking about it because I'm a buyer's agent now, and so 7 years ago, thinking about what my first property purchase was, I was very green, like 21, 22. We didn't have YouTube channels like yours and mine where people could find out this information. But for me, one of the biggest mistakes I made, or at least, wish I knew back then, was I could go and get a mortgage broker. So I went directly to the bank thinking, well, that's where I bank, so I should get my loan from there. But with a mortgage broker, you're able to get, more options about different interest rates and what each bank looks for. So for me, I went directly to a bank, but I think if I had my time over, I would want to know what my options are with a mortgage broker. What was your experience with it?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think one of the things that I didn't know was that it actually doesn't cost you anything extra by going to a mortgage broker, because the banks actually pay them. So you don't actually have to pay a fee by using a mortgage broker, which is something that is really good. And then you also get access to their expertise. And they obviously know a lot about home loans. They can help you find the right home loan for you. So yeah, really good point. What is the second thing that you wish you knew?
I'd say, obviously it's a bit biased now, being a buyer's agent, but I think research is so underrated. Like, whether you're looking for a place for yourself or whether you're looking for an investment property, some people like yourself, you buy your house to live in, but then becomes an investment property. It's still important to know what things to look out for. So I think it's either, if you've got the time, then do the research yourself, or if you don't have the time, then get the expertise that's really required by someone who's done that, been there, done that. I think that's something that I've learnt the hard way. Obviously for me, I'm passionate about this, so I spend like hours researching, but I know for a lot of people, it's not, plausible to spend so many hours doing it. So I think research is a big part of that.
Yeah, definitely agree. And what are some things that you like researching when it comes to properties to buy, whether that be a home or an investment property?
Yeah, I think everyone sort of knows the, the micro sort of things to look at, like, is it a good street? Is there train stations around and things like that? But I think if I had my time again, I think a part of my early purchasing journey, I was a bit lucky, but I would be focusing more on the macro stuff as well. So don't sort of go, oh, this is what's happening in my suburb or these suburbs I'm looking at. I would also be looking at what's happening in the wider economy. If the government's printing a lot of money, what does that mean? Because those indicators are going to tell you a narrative, tell you a story long term, and then you're able to come back to it. Like, let's look at COVID. So many people didn't want to be stuck at home in their, 1-bedroom apartment anymore. So they then started moving out regionally or up the coast. And I think having the intel, having the understanding of those things, I think goes a long way in the long term.
So true, yeah. Really, really good points. And what is the last thing that you wish you knew before you bought your first property or your first home?
So the last thing.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Oh, I mean, like, we have 3 tips, so what's your third tip?
Oh, right, okay.
So what is the third thing that you wish you knew before you bought your first property?
It's surprising that now with so much information that people still don't realize we don't need a 20% deposit, and when you actually do the numbers, like, you have to pay LMI, so lender's mortgage insurance. But I think knowing the fact that you aren't priced out of the market for like another 2 years before you can save that money, I think that's massive. For me, obviously at that time, I was aware of LMI and I could purchase with a 10% deposit. But I think even now today, with so much information, I know you talk about it as well, is that you can get access to buying property without having to have a 20% deposit.
Yeah, it's such a huge point, because when I first heard that you could do that, it just like blew my mind, and I was like, I can't believe I bought this place with a 20% deposit, and I actually could have bought a house in the same area with a 10% deposit, and I kind of regret it now, but you know, you guys can all learn from our mistakes and our missteps. And
that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a huge thing. And I think following on from your point, not only do you not need a 20% deposit to buy your first home, but there's also a new scheme called the First Home Buyers Deposit Scheme, which means that you can have a 5% deposit and you also don't have to pay lender's mortgage insurance, but it does have terms and conditions. Definitely check out the government websites. I think this only applies to new builds at the moment, and there's also usually a cap on the amount of people that can apply for it, but there's just so much stuff out there that first home buyers can take advantage of, which I just had no idea about. So yeah, really good point.
I mean, on that point, right, like having that access to information is so important, like keeping an eye out for so many of the changes that are coming about. Like we get so caught up in our day-to-day, it's hard to go, oh, well, I'm still looking for property, but then meanwhile, the state government or the budgets come out and they've changed rules for what could benefit you quite a bit. So I think it's just important to keep an eye out for that stuff. And of course, subscribe to channels like ours, because then you'll keep up to date.
Yeah, subscribe and make sure you like this video, by the way. Good segue. Yeah, so following on from that, something else that I wish I knew was the First Home Buyers Deposit Scheme. So I had no idea about this, but you can actually save for your first home in your superannuation. So you can do this through salary sacrificing. So you can set this up with your employer. So instead of taking out the compulsory 9.5% of super, you can actually salary sacrifice more of your salary and put it into your superannuation. And then you can withdraw these extra funds in order to purchase your first home. So as Ravi mentioned to me earlier, with the new budget, this has increased from $30,000 up to $50,000, which is really good if you are looking to purchase your first home. And of course, there are some benefits tax-wise for doing it this way, because super is only taxed at 15%, whereas a lot of our marginal tax brackets are from 30% up to 45%. So you will be saving a bit of money on tax. And then it's also a bit of an easier way to save for your first home, because you're literally paying yourself first, because it just goes into your super fund. You don't even have access to those funds to, you know, get tempted to spend that money on Dogecoin or some new Gucci shoes or something like that. So yeah, definitely a good thing to look out for. Are there any final first home buyer tips that you wanted to give our viewers about, I don't know, how to save up for a first home, things you wish you knew, and property tips?
Yeah, I think the main thing is around not just focusing on one asset class. You know, I talk a lot about real estate, but I also talk about stuff like crypto, and you talk about ETFs and stocks. And I think what's important is, just because you can't buy property, right, because there's a large capital required, it doesn't mean you can't invest and start building up those muscles in your mind, the investing muscles as I call them, and actually go out there, start using that money that you have to invest in productive assets. That allows you to start building those connections in your mind to start going, when I have to make the biggest purchase of my life, being my house or an investment property, I'm not going to sort of double think certain things and analysis paralysis. You're going to end up making that move fairly quickly. So yeah, look at other asset classes and start getting educated, especially when you've got people that are on YouTube that are talking about this stuff. Not only that, but about their experiences and mistakes that we've made. That's a huge learning curve. Like, we didn't have that 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things to invest in. Like, investing isn't just for the super rich. Like, we can do it too. Like, look at Ravi and I. Like, We're not crazy ballers or anything, but you know, we've managed to save up and invest and, you know, get ourselves into a pretty decent situation just by, you know, little things here and there. So thank you so much for coming on the channel, Ravi. Really enjoyed your tips, and I think that our viewers have gotten a lot of value from this video.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Queenie. And you know, it's been a pleasure. I think we did our last video about 6 months ago, and time flies when you're having fun.
It really does. And by the way, guys, make sure you do check out Ravi's channel. He has some really awesome tips about buying the first home, property investing, crypto, personal finance, just pretty much everything in general. And I think you guys will really enjoy his videos. He has amazing quality on his channel. Like, his videos are so like, it's like watching a movie. They're like so it's like a cinematograph. What's it
Cinematic.
Called? Cinematic, that's right. That's, you know what I mean. But yeah, whenever I watch them, I'm like, Ooh, so cool. So yeah, I'm sure you guys will love his channel. And if you did get some value out of this video, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to both of our channels. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.